Most employees at Refton Industries only saw Lucas Grant as the powerful, confident CEO whose life seemed picture perfect. Every morning he arrived early, dressed in crisp suits, greeting everyone with effortless charm. But behind all the confidence, Lucas carried something he never admitted, an ache of loneliness he could never quite explain. So when his company announced its annual charity tennis day, he laughed loudly at the idea of joining. "I'll play," he said jokingly, "and if anyone beats me, I'll marry them." The room erupted in laughter. Everyone knew Lucas was competitive. Everyone assumed no one stood a chance, but one person didn't laugh. A man sweeping the hallway paused, lifted his head, and looked at Lucas with calm eyes, almost as if he knew something others didn't. "Before we begin, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Storysphere for more inspiring and emotional storytelling videos. Your support helps bring more meaningful stories every week." Now, let's begin. David had been the building's janitor for only 3 months. Quiet, humble, always on time. He swept floors, fixed lights, and carried himself with a gentle politeness that made people feel at ease. But no one knew anything about his life before this job. He never bragged, never talked about his past, and never complained. On the morning of the tennis charity event, employees gathered at the community courts. Music played, kids held signs, and everyone wore bright t-shirts with their company logo. Lucas stood in the center, tennis racket in hand, smiling proudly as employees approached him for photos. "Ready to watch me win?" he teased, spinning the racket playfully. That's when David approached quietly, holding his own old racket case, faded, patched, and clearly well used. "Mind if I play, sir?" he asked calmly. The crowd fell silent. A janitor challenging the CEO, people exchanged amused glances. Some whispered. Some laughed softly. Lucas raised an eyebrow. "You play tennis?" David nodded once. "A little." The match began lightly, Lucas confident, joking, bouncing on his feet. He swung hard on the first serve, expecting to impress the crowd, but David returned the ball so smoothly, so effortlessly, that Lucas froze. It wasn't luck, it was skill, precise, sharp, practiced. Whispers spread through the audience as the rally continued. David's movements were elegant, controlled, and strong. He wasn't just good, he was extraordinary. The employees leaned forward, kids stopped eating snacks, even Lucas's competitive smile slowly faded into disbelief. Point after point, David played calmly while Lucas grew breathless. Finally, Lucas dropped his racket gently and stared at the janitor in awe. Who are you?" he asked, panting. David lowered his head shyly. "Just someone who used to play. A long time ago." Later, during the break, Lucas sat beside him on the bench. For the first time in years, he felt humbled, inspired, even. "You're incredible," Lucas said warmly. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" David shrugged. "Because I didn't need to. My work here is enough. I'm grateful for it." Lucas had spent years surrounded by people who chased power, attention, and status. But here was someone with talent most athletes could only dream of, and he swept floors without hesitation, without complaint, without pride. Something shifted in the CEO's heart. "David," Lucas said gently, "do you want something more? A coach position? A sports program director? I can help you." But David shook his head. "I just want to help people quietly. That's always been enough for me." The CEO wasn't expecting that answer, and it touched him deeper than he imagined. For the rest of the charity event, Lucas and David played together, not as CEO and janitor, but as two human beings connecting through kindness, humility, and respect. Their laughter echoed across the courts. Kids ran up to get photos with both of them. When the day ended, Lucas stepped forward and addressed the crowd. "Today I made a joke, one I probably shouldn't have," he admitted with a smile. "But what I gained today wasn't a victory. It was perspective. Talent has no title. Kindness has no rank. And respect should always be mutual." Everyone applauded. David blushed and looked down, but he was smiling. On Monday, Lucas created a new position at the company, community wellness coach, offering it directly to David, not because of tennis, but because of his heart, patience, and humility, and David accepted. Sometimes the people we overlook are the ones who teach us the biggest lessons. Kindness elevates us, humility inspires us. And when we choose to see others for who they truly are, life becomes more beautiful than we ever expected.